congregation and for this community. A milestone, 10 years, the second longest ministerial service this congregation has ever had. We celebrate a minister that has called us all to be ministers, to each other, to the community, to the greater world. We celebrate the mission which guides this ministry, the celebration of life itself, the nourishment of the Spirit, the inspiration and commitment to justice. We celebrate the seasons of love, the seasons that let you trust someone new, retrust someone familiar, open up, come out, own ourselves and our actions, forgive ourselves and each other, lean on someone's shoulder, hug someone so tight you squeeze the juice out of them, jump into someone's arms. We celebrate the music which fills and moves us. We celebrate the extended net of ministerial love and support that has brought other UU ministers here with us today. Because this church and the ministry of our minister wouldn't happen without their care and feeding. We celebrate connections, the mystery of them. The mystery that may have brought you here today for the first time. Where are you in church? The one we hope ends with, I was meant to be here today. If you're a first-time visitor, would you please stand at this time so we may honor you? And if you're an ongoing supporter of Allegheny or a member of Allegheny, would you please stand so that we may honor you? We celebrate a vision of a more just and loving world, a commitment to our community, shared principles, and our covenant to one another. We celebrate wisdom and inspiration, the sharing of one's gifts with others, even after retirement. We're blessed today to have the Reverend Mark Belletini with us again, to bring this full circle from Rev Dave's installation here 10 years ago. And finally, we celebrate creative love, commitment to others and family, and deep and powerful personal faith that creates sacred worship for our congregation. And to be really fair, we celebrate 11 years. So I invite you to take a moment now to turn to the people around you and welcome them. You may even want to say, I celebrate you today.
Good morning from behind the piano. My name is Jesse Landis-Eigsti. I am the musician this week. And when I was talking to Kate, who's been playing this for a long time, about what she wanted to sing in this service, one word that she used to sort of describe the feel was a flash mob. So we don't have any choreography planned, but we do have some music. And this is sort of an open invitation to anyone who wants to sing to Rev Dave. So some people have been practicing the harmonies, but for those of you who are familiar with the show Rent, this song is Seasons of Love from it. And if you know it, or even if you don't know it and are just feeling sort of gung-ho this morning, we invite you to come up and sing with us. We have some choir members. We also have some people who say, I'm not singers, but they're just fooling you, because here they are singing and doing an amazing job. So this is, Seasons of Love, and if you want to sing along or follow along, the words are on the back of today's order of worship.
Six
Thank you, everyone.
Good morning. My name is Laura Howe. I'm a member of the Ohio-Meadville Board of Directors as well as the District Coordinator for General Assembly. General Assembly is the annual gathering of the EUA, and it happens to be happening in Columbus next June, which really is not that far away. This is the GA chalice that's been used since 2003, and imagine being in a worship service with thousands of people. It's awesome. The love here is great today. I'd like to invite Reverend Dave and his family up to light the chalice for today.
Let this flame symbolize the divine spark of light embedded in all living beings. May its flame lead us to greater knowledge and tolerance. May its warmth lead us to deeper love and compassion. May its light lead us toward greater wisdom and understanding. Yes, each of us is but a tiny flame, but together we can enlighten the world. Thank you. For our affirmation this morning, I invite you to join me in reading our covenant, which can be found on the normal order of service in the pew cards in front of you on the inside, labeled covenant. And I will read the beginning and the first line of each stanza, and then ask you to join in for the response. As we seek to build our vision of beloved community, we, the members of Allegheny Unitarian Universalist Church, covenant to affirm and promise, there is love here. There is spirit here. There is trust here. There is compassion here. There is forgiveness here. There is humanity here. There is oneness here. There is difference here. There is hope here. There is justice here. We enter into this covenant seeking to strengthen our ties to one another and deepen our sense of community. This time I'd like to invite Robbert Bricker forward for a special song.
Hey guys, doing today? So I wrote this song last week, 2 weeks ago. I didn't have a song for the service 2 weeks ago, so I wrote this little hook and did it, and it was a lot of fun. And it's really easy to learn. It's just we got love, we got love, we got love, we got love, and that's pretty much it. And then I change it up, and I'll leave you. It'll be fine. We got love. We got love, we got love, we got love, we got love. Must be equals, we got love. Now you try with me. We got love. We got love, we got love, we got love, we got love. Must be equals, we got love. There you go. Try Shake my hand. Shake my hand, shake my hand, shake my hand, shake my hand. What's the evil? Shake my hand. We got love. 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 What's the evil?
Thank you, Robert. At this time, I'd like to invite the young ones or the young at heart forward, and their caregivers, if you so choose, for our time for all ages. And there's so many of you today, you might want to, the cushions are great to put on the floor for those who don't get a nice seat at the bench. So, not the bench and the cushion, it's the bench or the cushion. So get the cushions for the people who have to sit on the floor. Awesome, thank you. Holy smokes, you keep going. Oh my gosh. I'm really glad you're here today, though. Are you glad you're here today? Yeah, okay. And, well, we have Miss Marissa here today, our lovely RA leader, and lots of parents and lots of kids. And for those of you who were here last week, did these look familiar to you? These kids hanging on the street? Anybody remember what they were? Do you remember what they were? What? You wrote, right? You wrote little gifts of thanks, didn't you? Yeah, we wrote little gifts of thanks to Rev Dave's ministry. Well, you know, I was talking with a friend this morning, and he was like, well, I want to understand more about those. And so he wants to come up and talk about them a little bit. Is that okay with you? Do you have any idea who it might be? Elmo! 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 Everybody! Come on, Elmo! Hey, Elmo, thanks for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. You know what, boys and girls? I got a little story I want to tell you. Reverend Dave. See Reverend Dave over there? Let's give him a nice big hand. You know what? Okay? His anniversary of 10 years. 10 years, that's a long time, isn't it? Yeah. Reverend Dave's been here 10 years. And does anybody know what an anniversary means? Well, that's right. He's been here for 10 years. He's kind of married to the church, and he watches all over us. Reverend Dave is our great big shepherd, and he takes care of us. And that's right. And 10 years ago, Reverend Dave came to this church, and he wanted to shine his light on all of us. But his light was little, because he didn't know too many people. do good, your life grows bigger. His life became bigger and bigger and bigger. And today, it's really bright. So, being our shepherd and being our leader of this great church and what he's done for you and me, and he's my special friend, and you know what, boys and girls? Reverend David, he watches Sesame Street online every day. And we're gonna have him tell us a little bit later what he's been learning. Isn't that nice? Right, Reverend Dave? I brought you a special balloon here over here. Couple special balloons I want to present to you. Okay. Wow. We're going to read to him. See what this balloon says? Can anybody read this?
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you for all you do because he's a special person. And who's this person? That's me. All these months, Reverend Derek's been watching us. He finally learned who Elmo was. And we're running our calendar. Dad Brown and Cookie Monster and Oscar and all these wonderful people from Sesame Street. I want to present Reverend Derek with these balloons here. And congratulations. Let's give Reverend Derek a big My special friend Jesse back here, who does a great job with the music. You know, music's important. Elmo likes to sing, and Elmo likes to dance. So we want to give Jesse a great big hand for
And now I think we're going to invite Miss Marissa up.
Yes,
And
Marissa.
We're gonna- since we were talking about our light shining, yeah, we're gonna ask you to help lead the congregation in singing this little light of mine, okay?
Right.
So do you guys want to stand up?
Here we go, Grandma.
Stand up around Elmo.
And Mr. Jesse, we're going to sing 2 extra verses today,
Okay,
okay?
great.
Okay, let's give Miss Marissa this hand and a big hand here. Okay, everybody sing. Here we go.
And let's have everyone rise and body your spirit. Let's have this whole congregation really get into this.
And see.
This little light of mine. Where can I go?
to Rev Dave with some art and some writing. Thank you.
Let's sing one more round as the kids leave for our games. Well, just like the kids, we wanted you to have a chance to share a memory, and I know we have everyone from members who've been here for 20 plus years to people visiting for the first time today. So hopefully you got a little shake when you came in the door and a pencil, and if you didn't raise your hand, and we'll try to make sure you get one. And we just wanted to take a moment to share with each other and with this community what the ministry over the last 10 years has meant. And that can be Rev Dave's ministry, it can be something that the church itself or the community here has brought to your life. So we're going to ask Jesse to just play a couple minutes of music and then have you bring those up. And when we finish that, we're going to hear a little bit from Rev Dave. When you've written your memory, if you already have it written, come up and hang it up. I'll book it anytime.
so many levels. This is a beautiful thing. Memories from the past 10 or 11 or actually 12, depending on how you count them. From that first moment that I looked at this little church in the north side and told him, you know, I have a good feeling about this. And he said, we are not moving to part-time job. To that moment at a Mexican restaurant, and I couldn't even tell you where it was, after I had preached in Meadville, Pennsylvania, to this extraordinary group of people from this congregation. And we had, it was not the best Mexican food. But what it was a connection and a deep understanding of one another as taking next steps in our journey. And that possibility of growing together was palpable in that moment. And so many moments, Jan picking up the tambourine and playing it in the middle of some song. Oh, the group and small group ministries flourishing and bubbling up and having a great time. You know, the staff and volunteers falling apart, and then people coming together, and difficulties that we've had, and some of them resulting in this beautiful covenant that we created as a family. And all of the time and effort that I see you guys putting in, it is not easy to run a small church. It is not easy to run any kind of Unitarian Universalist church. And this is not an easy time in which to do it. This is a very strange time in our life as a culture with so much anxiety and so much finger pointing and so much anger and so much confusion. And so think of people who are here and people who passed, and those moments where we celebrate their lives. Think of the tragedy that hit during my sabbatical and how people came together and recreated community over and over again. That's what we do every week. It's never the same people. It's always recreating community over and over and over again. And so I'm going to end with the memory that I have of one of the latest memories, which was there was a woman who was sitting in the fourth row during Sunday Boost, and I met her just this past week, and I haven't seen her since. And she said, you know, I was really not knowing what this was all about. Because, you were talking about God's love, and we're grateful that we're here, and that we bring our whole selves, and I was waiting for you to ramp up. I was waiting for you to ramp up and shake us the finger and give us some hell, and you didn't. And then I realized that this place is about peace and love. What more is necessary?
I invite you now into a few moments of stillness and reflection, and Jesse will sing us out with some music.
take my hand. Lead me on, let me stand. I'm tired, I'm weak, I'm worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am
Thomas Dorsey wrote that song after his wife died, and he was tremendously desolate. And it's become a very well-known song for church and concert as well. But it's a very rare and precious presentation of what it means to grieve, which all of us are grievers. We've all faced death and lost people that we love. And it's a beautiful, beautiful testimony to that part of our lives. So there's 526,600 minutes in a year, which means there's 5,256,000 minutes in 10 years. And each of these minutes flows like a river through the seasons of our life. Fall, winter, spring, and summer. Sun rises as red as an apple. Sun sets framed by lavender clouds. Moments of deep heartache and grief. Moments of ecstasy under the stars. Moments when we wrestle hard with forgiveness. Moments when we wrestle hard that people have forgiven us. Moments of deep disappointment and fear. Moments of deep gratitude and satisfaction. Moments of happiness around the feasting table. Moments of loneliness even in the midst of a crowd. Moments of anxiety followed by great boldness. Moments both of understanding and bewilderment. Moments of confidence and vision and peace. Oh, precious love, take our hands. We may actually live our lives, not just count the minutes, but living each and every one of them. So be it. If you turn for the words to 289 in your books, we're going to sing a different tune, so don't look at the notes. Rockingham is the tune that we're going to sing. If you want to rise for this, it's easier to sing when your body is stretched out.
And as Reverend Belletini said, the music is different, so I'm going to play through the melody one time just so we can kind of get it in our ear, and we'll sing Creed of Love together.
So picture this. The year is 2010. The month, June, towards the end. The city is Minneapolis, Minnesota. There, my good friend Jane Jepka, the Reverend Jane Jepka, the wife of my best friend from high school and a very long time UU minister, the person who introduced me to Unitarian Universalism, was given the highest accolade that our denomination gives, confers, the Distinguished Service Award in the cause of Unitarian Universalism. It's given to one person once a year, so it's a precious honor, certainly. So, I knew Jane long before she was a minister. Kind of like David. I met him at a General Assembly too, before he was ordained a minister. I know both David and Jane in different ways than most people do. I had to speak first that day, and I had to outline Jane's achievements, but also talk about her life as a person, as well as a parson. I used to always say about Jane after I met her that she was the least neurotic person I had ever met. When I finished my own talk, Jane and I embraced, and I went to sit down with everybody else. Right next to me was Gail Geisenhainer, the senior minister of our Ann Arbor, Michigan congregation. She had been Jane's beloved intern minister sometime back. So Jane went up to the mic and smiled and said these words. Thank you, Mark, for those generous words. I can't tell you how flabbergasted I feel. Flabbergasted and honored. And I thank the committee and the board for knowing how much this would mean to me, even though I didn't know it till now myself. As you pointed out, I have been a minister for quite a while. And so I usually have words for every occasion. I have whole sermons, in fact. But I don't have any words for this. I don't have a sermon for an occasion like this. But I can tell you what it feels like. When I was a baby, she said, I was dedicated in our Unitarian church. I won't be remembering the exact words, obviously, but I'm pretty sure the minister said something like, little baby, in our religion, everyone gets celebrated. Everybody gets loved. Today, it's your turn. You get a rosebud to hold in your hands. You can even chew on it if you like. But little baby, each of us is worthy of celebration. And then, all those decades ago, he probably went on to say something like this. I'm holding you in a room full of people who feel passionate about our religion. You are surrounded this morning by all kinds of people who are grounded and centered in our values and in our commitments. And these people hereby dedicate themselves to you and to one another and to the world on this day and every day. Little baby, they will be your springboard as you make your name your own. They will be your comfort and your inspiration and your joy. And that's a promise. Now at this point, Gail, sitting next to me, her former intern, started to offer a quiet but clearly spoken countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I looked over to her and I said, what are you doing? Gail just continued. 4, 3, 2, 1. And at that very moment, Jane continued by saying this. And so the award I am receiving is not about me. You are no different than the people in that room when I was dedicated. You are the real heroes in the room, the real supporters of our religious movement. You are the ones whose distinguished service in the cause of Unitarian Universalism is what this day is about. Gail smiled and turned to me and whispered, Jane can take the spotlight off herself in 2 minutes flat. She recognizes that ministry is a shared reality, not bottled all up in her alone. She is a marvel of a woman, that Jane. Well, Gail was right about Jane. It's never about her. It's always about all of us together. And that, of course, is just as true about David. David and I have talked many times over the years. We have been friends. And he has never said a word to me to make me think otherwise. His commitment to the people of this congregation that he serves is first and foremost, along with his family, of course. He does not begin with himself. He begins with the possibility of a ministry, a service, which can transform all of us, and even address the world that is our common home outside these stained glass windows. The Reverend Forrest Church, the late minister of All Souls Church in New York City, was a friend and a mentor to both David and to me. He participated in David's installation here with me 10 years ago, wearing his, I used to tease him about this, his Pepto-Bismol colored robe from Harvard. Both David and I dearly, dearly love Forrest. David and Tim even named one of their sons after Forrest. As I've talked with David over the years, not just 10 years, but quite a few more, in Cape Cod, in San Francisco, in Hayward, in Utah, in Pittsburgh, I am convinced that in these last 10 years that David expresses in his own ministry the context of some of Forrest Church's great words. Forrest once wrote these words and then said them to himself every day for a number of years. He put them in one of his books, Love and Death. But I first heard him speak these words at a General Assembly. Here they are. Love what you have. Be who you are. Do what you can. Pretty simple, huh? Now, when Forrest preached about this phrase at General Assembly, quite a few people expressed shock to him during the question and answer period. Some people were even outraged. Why? Because everyone there knew that doctors had diagnosed Forrest about 2 years earlier with esophageal cancer, and that it was terminal. There was nothing that could be done. Nothing. He was moving inexorably to his death and was bandying this mantra about. How can you love what you have? People said to him. You're not telling me that you love your cancer, are you? That's nutty. Forrest answered, cancer is what I have. It's not going to go away. There is no magic bullet. I have to accept that this is the part of me that's going to end my life. But, you know, it's connected to every single other part of me. every single other organ in my body, every single breath I take, every heartbeat, all the other aspects of my life and in the environment around me of which I am also a part. It is there. There is no way to remove it or cut it off from my life. Shall I give up everything else in my life, stop living now, just so that I can get rid of the cancer? It's attached to all of me. My mind, my body, my heart, all interwoven. It's the cancer in me that is part of me, and it's my me that loves my wife and my children and my parishioners and the night sky. So I love what I have because I love myself, and that is part of myself. Now I know that's a very difficult idea to wrap around. I understand that. It was difficult for me at first too. Not everyone there got what he meant even after he said that. It's kind of a counterintuitive way of thinking. But as I have lived with his words for a time, repeating it in my head day after day as he did, it eventually helped me to understand aspects of my own life as a minister. Because you see, I had cancer once too. It was early in its development, and I was fortunate indeed, unlike Forrest, they were able to successfully remove it. But I went through an emotional roller coaster that no terrifying theme park could come close to duplicating. Still, I have to say that meditating on Forrest's phrase gave me the strength to deal with the impact of that tough work, cancer. I think there is a deep spiritual wisdom hidden in its underneath its counterintuitive surface. But I haven't exhausted looking at Forrest's simple affirmations. I spent 40 years of my life doing the same work that David is doing, and I loved it. I felt privileged to be doing it each and every day. David loves this work at least as much as I do, probably more. But it doesn't mean in my case, let's say, that there weren't times that I didn't envy the French painter Gauguin, who tossed it all away to move to Tahiti. There were days, sometimes once a week, after a particularly nutty board meeting or spending a week dealing with someone who projected their issues onto me because I reminded him of his brother for some reason, that I actually started packing. I spent a whole year once, early in my ministry, dealing with a deeply, deeply disturbed woman who wrote vile letters to me at the office and at home, no margins, anywhere, just right across. In each letter, she cursed my family and threatened to kill me. This was all back in the days before harassment legislation was passed, so there was absolutely nothing I could do. When I took her letters and her phone messages to the police, they said, "We can't do anything until she kills you." I was flabbergasted. She's just threatening you, they said. She's not actually harming you. As if vile words don't harm. The way it finally ended involved me going to a therapist to find some particular but effective words to say to her, to undercut her madness. And wonderfully they worked. But I can tell you, during all the days of that year when she was doing this, I had my bags packed. I was ready to just take off. I can't do this work. It's too hard. I love the people I was privileged to minister to, even if some of them drove me to distraction sometimes, or even if they told me I drove them to distraction sometimes. They were all a part of my ministry. There's no way to separate them out. I see David also moving out of his his core of love for the people he serves, no less than me over 40 years. And David does what he can, to quote Forrest's simple phrase. Just a couple of one-syllable words. Do what you can. But both David and I learned a long time ago that we are not miracle workers. When we tell the Red Sea to split, it stays flat. If we say to someone, be healed of your infirmity, nothing happens. Because we can't do that. We can only do what we can do, and just what we can. We can do things like listen. Listen deeply. We can notice things and then mention them. We can help people to learn to draw boundaries for themselves where necessary. We can't do that for them. They have to draw boundaries. We can coach patience, because certainly this life requires a lot of that. Or we can help sometimes to siphon off a sense of shame. We certainly can lift up visions and possibilities for the good. Find the spiritual pulse in folks who have long wondered why life seems so flat to them. We can laugh with the laughers and weep with the weepers. In short, love the people in all their variety and love them fiercely. You know, love is a troubling word for some. It sounds too personal, too tied up to romance or greeting card sentiment. But despite those caveats, it remains for me, and I think for David, the governing word for the ministries that I respect and honor. Forrest once came to visit a man who was not even a member of his church in New York City, but who simply called him up at his office and told him he was in the emergency ward and was scared. The man had suffered a divorce, the loss of family, the loss of a job in short order, and now a very serious illness was sapping him dry. He had nothing left to fight with. The man simply looked up Manhattan churches in the phone directory and found Forrest's office number and called him. Forrest picked up the phone. He was in his office. It was 10 o'clock at night. And he said, I'll be in. And he went down to the hospital and he listened to the man's difficult story. And then he said these words to him. We have a lot of work to do together, don't we? Did you hear that? He didn't say he could heal the man's fractured life, only that he would be with this man as he struggled to put it back together. Forrest remained a presence in this stranger's life for a long time. They talked deeply over and over. Then, when Forrest left that very first day that he met this guy in the hospital, Forrest said to him, I love you. And to this day, the man insists that just hearing that he was loved, just hearing that in the midst of his trials, from a person he really didn't know, served to loosen the pivot of his life so it might turn in the right direction. And eventually it did, and he thrived. That's not real love, some people will say. It's just a nice word. But it is real love. Because Forrest never put on a show. He was who he was. Be who you are, he wrote. And Forrest was by nature, his biographers say of him, a very warm, sunny, and loving man. Now, not everyone will use words to express love. I understand those differences in people. But no one who experiences a ministry rooted in love can miss its source or its grounding. Love is dear to me too. It's my favorite word to use actually in the pulpit. I call God love. My beloved grandparents made sure that I understood that love was central, but on top of that, I have always been someone who cries easily. I've always been that way. I'm quickly moved, and it goes to my eyes, and there's tears. When I was young, of course, every adult around me warned me that weeping is not the best thing for a male human being to do. They scolded me and tried to humiliate me and shame me every time I did it. But, I kept on crying because that's who I am. I mean, if I have to minister to people being who I am, think of what someone like me might do when a church member's military son has been sent to Iraq during the war. What you do is you listen to the frightened father call you up every single week for months in torment, saying that every time the phone rings in his house, he is afraid that it might be the call. I say to him with tears flooding my eyes as soon as he said it, and every week, oh my God, you're his father. Of course you worry and fret about him. I cannot take your pain away. It's a pain born of your love for him. It would be foolish for me to say to you, toughen up, or there. He hears the warble of tears in my voice, honoring his deep father love, and he thanks me for that every time. This goes on for months and months. Finally, one day the father phones me and says, the call came today. My son's truck was bombed. He's gone. I need you right now. So I go over to his difficult-to-find house, park, and go in. Doors open unlocked. As I move into the house, I see where he is. He's sprawled out flat on the wooden floor, wailing. So I did what I can do. Being who I am. Although I admit that I can do the non-anxious presence business to find so much good ministry, I didn't do that day. I threw myself on the floor next to him and wailed. And we wailed for a good long time, until we were both too exhausted to cry anymore, and we could sit up and talk a little bit more quietly. It's the way I am. I cannot pretend to be someone else. I cannot emulate some minister who would have had a different approach. I can only minister through my personhood. The word parson and the word person are actually, if you look them up in the dictionary, the same word. It's just pronounced differently. Father and I still talk about that day. It changed both of us forever. David is who he is too. He does not pretend to be like Forrest. He does not share my theology, but has his own. And I can confess that I have certainly seen him weep. Still, he is who he is, and I am who I am. He does not think that trying to emulate Marlon Lavenhar, or Bill Singford, or Jane Jeffco, or Meg Barnos, or Mark Morrison Reed, or truly celebrated and revered ministers would make much sense. He has to minister the way he ministers, not the way they do it. And he's ministered here for 10 years, entirely true to himself the whole time. David loves justice and lifts it up. He invites others to join him in justice work because, after all, the privilege of ministry belongs not to him alone, but to all the people who covenant together to be a congregation. And here, I should let you know that your covenant, which is online, that we said earlier, is considered one of the finest covenants of any UU congregation. Ministers talk about it all the time, how beautiful it is, how extraordinary it is. Congratulations on that. David loves his family too. His spouse Tam, the boys Forrest and Tiger. This is who he is also. This is what he can do. This is what he has. David's been here 10 years, and in congregational practice, as I understand it, this means the real excitement is just now beginning. It takes a while for everything to gel, as you may have figured out, to weave a community deep enough over and over again, as David said, every Sunday after every Sunday, every day after every day, deep enough to share the rich ministry of the whole congregation. As I said, David is much like my friend Jane and will not applaud his own work without applauding all of you who join him in this work. He understands well that he serves this congregation and does not run it as some sort of grand poobah, nor does he own it. He has his up and down days, like all ministers do, but his love for this place and all of you is without question, and is the basis of his ministry. So I'm going to end now with a story that David probably knows. Perhaps some of you have read this story, if you've ever read the biography of Forest Church. On one of Forrest's last days in the hospital, a new nurse came in to be with him. She didn't know who he was, that he had written many books, but someone filled her in that he was a much praised author. Forrest's son Jacob happened to be with him at the time the nurse came in, and just happened to have in his hands a copy of Love and Death, his book, his father's book. In that book, I told you, are the words, love what you have, be who you are, do what you can. Jake gave the nurse the book, and Forrest signed the book, the last thing he ever signed, actually. And he wrote, with thanks and gratitude for the kindness and valor of your service. Love, Forrest. Like Jane Jepka, who praised the valor and distinguished service of everyone in the room when she got her award. And like Forrest, at the very end of his life, David knows that his ministry has always been amidst the community, many of whom serve with just as much distinction as he does. Like Forrest, he and I minister to strangers sometimes we never really get to know. But we do it. It's a hidden part of our ministry. A few days after the event with the nurse, Forrest was finally on his deathbed. His wife and family and friends gathered around. He was back at home, not in the hospital. He was declining with every breath. His wife kept on saying, "It's okay. It's okay. It's okay." His close friend, Buck Luce, around 6 p.m., suddenly out of nowhere shouted, "God bless Forest Church." And at that very moment, his breathing stopped. And Buck Luce at that moment started to applaud. I've never heard a story like this before. Applauding Forrest's life. And everyone around the bed joined in the applause. It just seemed like the right thing to do. David, most fortunately, has many more years to go. We can be glad about that. But I think Forrest's story teaches us very well about this present moment of gratitude for 10 years of distinguished service here in Pittsburgh. I say applause is warranted right now. Not just for David's 10 years, but for the ministry you and David have woven together over this past decade, and which will continue to thrive and grow in the coming years. So God bless the Allegheny congregation, and God bless its leader, Reverend Dave. David, would you come up here, please? At your installation, you lay hands upon you, and you do it again at every church. I'm going to ask people to come up as they can and lay their hands on you. And lay your hands on each other's shoulders if you can get close to David. Open hands, no weapons. Open hands, the greeting of peace. Open hands used for applause or accolades. Open hands right now, pressing into David. A glad and sacred confirmation of his ordination and his installation. Love and grace, David. Love and grace us all. And give us all power to go forward into the next 10 years. So be it. Amen.
Spirit of life, Spirit come unto me. Sing in my heart. All the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind. Rise in the sea. Move in the hands. Giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close. Wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me.
Please return to your seats. We're almost done.
So I have the privilege of talking briefly about generosity here this morning. Every summer, the worship ministry has a retreat, which is typically a bunch of hours during a day. And that's the time during the year when we come up with all of the crazy ideas. You know, how can we make worship better? How can we make it more engaging, more transformative? And that's when ideas come up like, well, what if we painted the sanctuary a different color? What if we hung the piano from the ceiling and dropped it down? What if we brought in Elmo on a Sunday morning? See how that went. What if we collected all the money on a Sunday morning and then we gave it away. What we talked about at the worship ministry retreat in the summer of 2009 was a book called Worship That Works, and it was a bunch of ideas around how to make worship better. And one of the big ideas that came out of that discussion, and also a bunch of other discussions happening at the church at the time, was how do we change the culture of the church from being one of scarcity into one of abundance and generosity? And the counterintuitive answer to that, the big idea was you give money away. And the more money you give away, the more money you actually, and the more generosity, and the more abundance, and the more you have. And so that was shortly after. It took a little while to work out the details. Can we give it all away? Well, that sounds pretty scary. Let's give half of it away. And so in the fall of 2010, we started something here called Share the Plate, where we give away half of our collection plate every Sunday morning to a community partner. And we made that decision to start that the same fall that we moved Reverend Dave to full-time ministry, which was really a huge financial commitment for the congregation. And really, in my mind, it's one of the proudest things we've accomplished together is doing those things at the same time. So since we started Share the Plate here at Allegheny, we've given away a little over $20,000 to a whole range of community justice partners, organizations that we think are doing good work in the community and reflecting justice in the world, making the world a better place. It's a way that we get outside of our walls and do good in the world. Our current partner is Hope Pros. They're here in Pittsburgh, and they support caregivers and people that are helping others at difficult places and at the end of their lives. And so half of everything that you donate today will go to Hope Pros. Giving as a spiritual practice, I encourage you not to treat it just as something after the sermon and before the last song. Think about how you can be generous today, how you can help us grow in violence. Here at Allegheny, everyone brings wine and bread to the table. I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward and please accept today's offering. Thank you for your generosity. We have a wonderful potluck lunch set up downstairs, and we invite everyone who's here today to stay, join us for that, for conversation or reflection, and have a chance to speak personally with Rev Dave. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, many of us are going to head over to Northside Common Ministries, to their men's shelter on Brighton Road, and we're going to do some painting and a service project over there, and you're also invited to join us for that.
And you can come whether you want a dish or not.
Absolutely.
That's your role. So, 5,256,000 minutes in 10 years, which means at the very least, 5,256,000 minutes to go. Go in peace. Amen.
And as our benediction song, let's sing one that you may know. The only words are, "Let the sun shine in."
think